Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
What's that?
Leftist media, high-tech lynch mobs in Mississippi and around the country for that matter. Welcome to Truth Thursday here on the Rob Maness Show live on Patriot.tv and our X-Spaces simulcast audience. Well, high-tech lynch mobs. You know, I first heard that phrase when Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas likened his treatment during his Senate confirmation to a lynching, but without a rope, after Senator Joe Biden attempted to destroy his professional reputation and his family during the hearing. In the last week, we've seen young Americans, mostly men like those and often referred to as frat boys, on college campuses like these guys at Ole Miss here in Mississippi. They're standing in the way of protesters supporting the despicable Hamas Nazis that executed the atrocities, killing babies, raping women and kids at a concert in Israel on October 7th, 2023. As they have attempted to tear down American flags at universities and replace them with the Hamas Nazi flag. Well, these protesters have also committed violence on these campuses and even hit targets such as burning 15 police vehicles just days ago out on the West Coast. Well, enter the frat boys across mostly Southern University campuses, stepping into the breach and facing down these Marxist terrorists on their campuses, and are now being accused of being racist. And one in the video you just saw has been doxxed, at least one, and his fraternity forced to kick him out. Why? Because the Marxist media in this country, in this state, in Mississippi, is now the digital lynch mob. And they will not only stop at nothing to hurt white males, but plan these operations in great detail in order to create the conditions favorable to their success. Well, my guest today is a well-known radio talk show host in Jackson, Mississippi, and follows these kinds of stories very closely. He hosts the Clay Edwards Show on 103.9 WYAB in Jackson, but it's also known as Mississippi's most incendiary talk radio show and podcast. Clay, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
What an honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for giving me some time, man. I know you're really busy. I get to listen to your show on occasion, and just that part of your life makes me tired thinking about it.
It's the getting up at 5 part. But hey, it's the place to play the game.
I'm with you, brother. I'm up at the same time, for sure, man. Well, tell my audience a little bit about yourself before we dive into this, because I got a whole show dedicated to the subject with more clips and stills of some people that were in that crowd. And I want to talk about these media outlets here in the state, because I'm from Gulfport, and I want the people of Mississippi to know what's going on here and the truth and the facts, So you're from Jackson. I like your handle, Save Jackson. That's how I found out about you, because I love Jackson, Mississippi. I've been there many times in my work life. My family's connected to Mississippi, even though my mom and brothers live in West Tennessee now.
Look, I wouldn't exist. None of what I do would be here. There's no reason that I should be the guy up here with the platform or the voice or any of that stuff. I was just like the people sitting at home listening. I got fed up with this media in the state not covering stories that I thought they should be covering. Frankly, they were just ignoring. They were like, let's stick our head as far in the sand as we can, and let's pretend, or let's tell ourselves, don't believe our eyes. Let's continue to blame all of Jackson's problems. That's where the whole Save Jackson thing came from. It really started with me doing urban exploration videos. You could go back to the beginning of my YouTube channel and what once was my Facebook page before they nuked it off the face of the earth. I had to start over from scratch at 50 some odd thousand followers, but that's neither there. That was for posting a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse, of all things. So I just very, very fed up with the Black Democrat power structure in Jackson, continuing to blame all the problems of Jackson on the state leadership. When I lived in Jackson for 43 years, I finally moved out 3 years ago. And it wasn't the crime, it wasn't no one thing, but the straw that broke the camel's back was the inability to keep the water running. You can do without a lot of things, you can't do without water. You can duck out potholes and crime, everything else. So that's kind of how I started doing this. And one thing led to another. My urban exploration videos turned into, well, COVID happened, and turned it into me ranting and raving. I never missed a day's work during COVID. Frankly, I still to this day don't know anybody that really died from COVID. Personally, people tell you, everybody's story about somebody that died from COVID is always my friend's aunt, my friend's grandmother. It was always that. It did start getting a little closer, but then as we learned about that, without going too deep into it, without rehashing all that, we know that a lot of those people had other reasons that the COVID was killing them, other than just the COVID, underlying health conditions and whatnot. So I started doing these videos and rants about that. I'll go back and watch those every now and then just kind of see how far I've come. They were just me ranting in my vehicle. I think like so many other people that start doing this, kind of get started, just turn the phone on them and start ranting. I think it started during the great toilet paper drought of 2020, March of 2020. And it's just been one thing from there. It bit me. I enjoyed it. The opportunity to do a radio show one day a week presented itself. I was like, keep saying the other thing. You never know what may happen. Here we are with the #1 morning show in the state, as far as I know. So 2 hours, 5 days a week, plus the social platform, all the different videos, podcasts, everything else that I do. I'm just a one-man army. I mean, obviously I have a support system, my family, my girlfriend, stuff of that nature that allow me to do all the shenanigans. But other than that, it's just nice to know that you can have a voice. I have a GED. I owned nightclubs for 10 years, went broke doing that, sold cars for 12 years, always working for somebody else. I didn't do this on a penny of. This wasn't ever about money. Now it pays bills now, but I mean, it's never been about the money. It's never been about, you don't have to be overly educated to do this. I went to junior college, got a not an associate's degree, the thing under that, a vocational degree and a GED. Yeah. And parlayed that into things that I could have never imagined. I've never been asked for my high school or college diploma on a job resume to begin with. But I say all that to say that anybody out there can do this. You need to have a voice. People stop me all the time in public and they say, thank you for saying the things that we can't say. You can say it. And that's what really grinds my gears more than anything is our own conservative friends, brothers and sisters that are worried that they may get canceled if they just speak the truth. And that's, if my legacy is nothing else when I get done with this, if people realize that you can be normal, you can wake up today and make a difference. Your voice matters as much as anybody else. All of it's just like our vote. Our votes, it don't matter how loud we are, Colonel, our vote, we only get one. You know what I mean? Right. So you only get one voice too. So make it count.
Exactly right, man. I've been doing this since 2017, and I just started getting a little bit of an allowance a month about 3 months ago. Before my wife was like, you don't get paid to do that. I go, yeah, but I get to bring a message of facts and truth and love of America to people that might not get it otherwise and aren't getting it because the corporate media, it just, they've all turned to the left and the Marxism now, and most of them are regime media at this point. So they're working for the government, which has turned extremely left. The biggest thing, though, Clay, that I like about your show, and I started listening to it during the Jackson Water problem issues. That's where I found you. Is the common sense part of it. Look, my dad was a GED graduate, so is my mother. My youngest son, I homeschooled. He's going to trade community college, just like you did, because that's what he wants to do, and he'll be good at it. He'll make a lot of money at it, probably, in today's environment, if we don't go completely communist in this country. I don't think we will, but the common sense piece of it. And I was wondering to get on the trail of this subject today. What was your impression as we saw not just the Ole Miss guys, but young men across the South on these universities start standing up and say, no, you're not going to tear the U.S. flag down. And if you get away with it, we're going to pull your Nazi Hamas terrorist flag down and put the U.S. flag back up. What were you thinking about when you started seeing that beyond just what happened in Mississippi?
Well, not to be a caricature of myself, but my saying here, FAFO, F around, find out. It was only a matter of time before they brought it to the South, and that's exactly what was going to happen. They found out real quick that even what was considered kind of the liberal arts college of the South, Ole Miss, still got some frat boys. And we're not going to play that nonsense down here. This is not about free Palestine. They don't give no more of a damn about Palestine than I do. This is their cause of the week. This is BLM 2020. This is Coney 2012. This is the Wall Street protest of 08, 09, whatever it was. This is the current thing. These people have no passion about this. They don't care about Palestine. Half of them, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is allowed on here or not, but the whole Queers for Palestine nonsense. Every time that bunch gets to talking at me, I tell them, please go protest over there, see how it works out for you. I have no respect for these people. They're lower than trash to me. And it was a gorgeous, beautiful thing. I think the frat boy revolt, I've been calling it at Ole Miss. I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I'm a Mississippi State fan personally, but I have a whole hell of a respect for what these boys did. There's a Twitter account called Red Cup Rebellion. It's just an Ole Miss fan page. And so I started calling it the frat boy rebellion by the time it got here to Mississippi. And I hate it for the guy that decided to have his worst moment ever in that moment. We'll call him Monkey Boy, because it gave this media in the state, the Mississippi Free Presses of the world, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a minute. It gave them all the meat on the bone they needed to convert this from free Palestine. I hate calling it that for lack of a better word, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, genocide, Nazis. It converted it from that to the fact that they're supporting Nazis after the irony of them calling us Nazis for the last 7 or 8 years for supporting Trump. And they're literally supporting Nazis, whether it's the Azov battalion in Ukraine or it's these free Palestine Antifa nut jobs here in America, Nazis. So I don't know, Colonel, I saw it. It really woke me up. It got me fired up. And of course, it simmered for a couple of days. And I guess it was Sunday. A friend of mine that actually despises the girl Stacy that works for the Mississippi Free Press. Never underestimate women's hatred for one another and the depths they'll go to see one of them deep fry. So one of this girl's haters, we'll just say it like that, sent me a photo of a screen cap from the frat boys that had been filming them on the other side. The girl they were chanting Lizzo to, her name's Jalen Smith. She's one of these people she's the black girl. She's one of these people that go around looking for racism. They say, you can find anything you're looking for. I can leave this house right now looking for meth and find it. I can leave this house looking for a prostitute. I can find it. I can leave this house and go get shot. I talk a lot about people getting shot in Jackson. I can go get myself shot in Jackson today if I wanted to. She wanted to find some racism. She created a situation for the racism to happen. Because, goodness, a bunch of drunk frat boys, 20 years old, pumping testosterone through their veins. You done got them fired up. You're cussing them out. You're flipping them off, saying God knows what type of racist comment. And one of them had the audacity to do something back to you. And now they always like to make this joke. You're a Timu this, you're a Wish version of this. She wanted her Timu Rosa Parks moment. And she got it. They served it up to her on a silver platter. Well, come to find out, I saw that screenshot. I don't know if you're ready to get into this, but here we go. I caught the screenshot of her and the reporter from the Mississippi Free Press.
Clay, before we get into that, let's take a commercial break real quick. We got to pay for this show, unfortunately. When we come back, I'll show another little clip about this woman and this other lady, I think, that you guys have identified at this protest here. And I want to get into what they were doing, because these are highly organized protests, highly organized, funded by Marxists and conducted by Marxist terrorists that are pro-baby killer, women rapers, atrocity creators. And we'll be right back with Clay Edwards on the Rob Maness Show at Patriot.tv and our X Spaces simulcast audience.
BellaPatriot.com. Let me explain to you what this is. This is an elixir. It's a daily elixir. It is a collagen, and it also has something known as astaxanthin that crosses the brain-blood barrier, that's loaded with antioxidants to take on the free radicals. And then it has something called cat's claw. That is from a bark on a vine in Peru. So these are three very powerful ingredients. Now, if you go to BellaPatriot.com, there are your science and clinical trials, right? And if you want to read the science, there it is. You don't get nearly 80 clinical trials for nothing. So again, you want to talk about science, the information behind it, this is it. We highly urge you to check it out. The results for Melissa and I have been very powerful. She and I take it each and every day. It's very simple. You just rip the top, drink it, and then throw away the container. We would urge you to go there, order it now, click and order now, and get your subscription.
Sounds rolling. All three cameras. We're good.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show at Patriot.tv live and our X Spaces simulcast audience. And we're talking about the digital lynch mob, or high-tech lynch mob, as Clarence Thomas called them back in the early 90s, within the media of the United States of America. And that little clip there of the frat boy revolution that, as Clay Edwards, my guest today, called it just a moment ago. I love it. Singing the national anthem had some very interesting angles and shots in it, Clay. And welcome back to the show, man. As we were going to the break, we were just starting to talk about one of the things I wanted to get your take on, because I know you covered this pretty in depth, specifically at Ole Miss. Bring up pick one, Mr. Producer, and we'll talk about this. So there's two ladies in that still. One's the black woman who we've already named. It's Jalen Smith, who's a person, as you said, Clay, that goes around and looks for racism. And they love finding it in Mississippi. They love to bash on our state because, you know, the president of the Confederacy, his last home is just down the road from me. And his presidential library, Jefferson Davis, is just down the road from me. So they think we're just a bunch of racist crazy rebel yelling nut jobs but we really just honor our ancestors and our country. That's why I got an American flag behind me today, and I don't normally do that because this is about the American flag. But who's that other lady with the arrow? That's still
Stacy Spieler, whatever. She's a journalist student graduating this week from Ole Miss. So is the other girl, by the way. So this false notion that they didn't know each other is just that false. There's no way you're both in journalism. I'm sorry. Well, first of all, she works for the Mississippi Free Press, which is spawned off from the Jackson Free Press, was your typical liberal free press rag like so many others around the country. A bunch of angry, bitter, Marxist white liberals who tell all the rest of us how racist we are. But when really it's them whose families were the racist families throughout the history of Mississippi. It's one of the stranger things. The guiltiest white liberals are the ones from the families that actually were racist. The Klan, slave owners, all that fun stuff. So those are people that are constantly telling us what racist we are. But we can go down that. We could talk for hours about that, right? But anyway, so that's Stacy, and I discovered Stacy's. And so here's what magically happened. Here's your setup. You see them talking there. Now I reported this that I'm as positive as you can be without just being able to etch it in stone. That clearly this is moments before the whole thing turned into a crap show. They're sitting there, they're looking at their phones, they're setting up their live streams because this was live streamed. They're setting up their live streams. Right. She's telling her, in my opinion, the black girl's telling Stacy, I'm about to walk up here and get my Timu Rosa Parks moment. I'm about to go instigate these boys and get them to do something stupid. Record me. So she walks up there. She's cussing them out, all this, that, and the other. And I know that because I have her Facebook post afterwards where she doesn't apologize for it, but she tries to explain it away. And then she's flipping them the bird, double flipping them the bird. You may or may not have that photo. And then what is a 20? I used to own nightclubs for 10 or 12 years. We used to throw frat parties. I know how hard it is to control a frat boy crowd. You want to talk about going and picking low-hanging fruit. If you're trying to get an exaggerated reaction out of a group, Rob, any of us could have got a reaction out of whatever reaction we wanted out of those boys. I don't know about you. I still got a lot of testosterone pumping through my veins. It ain't hard to get a reaction out of me at 46 years old. So point being, she went over there, she instigated it.
I'm 62. Just ask my audience.
Look,
I'm 62, and you just ask my audience. They can get a reaction out of me still, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to get me revved up. So she went over there. She punched them in the face, as far as I'm concerned, figuratively. And they punched her back. And now we're making her a civil rights icon. That's not how this works. We're not going to allow that. I'm not letting Monkey Boys nonsense stop me from calling them out. And everybody else shouldn't either. And I was really, really, when that post I did Sunday pointing this out went viral. I mean, it went mega viral. You had Jack Posobiec, however you say his last name, retweeted it. And at that point, it goes nuclear. There, and you know the old saying, Colonel, when you're above target, you can tell because of the way somebody reacts. It's like stop telling lies about me, and I'll quit telling the truth about you. There's the way they reacted to that video, demanding take it down. That post, demanding I take it down. All this. There's no way they're professionals. There's no way they would plot this. Well, what are they doing then? You're telling me don't believe my lying eyes. You're clearly over there discussing what you're about to do. You're doing phone swap. And moments later, old girl walks up to the barricade. The other girl she's talking to is the one filming the video that went viral. I'm not even saying it's a bad idea. If you're in media, at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's about clicks, not about truth. So regardless of what you're doing, I would think you were an idiot if that's not what you did. If you're in the media business to get clicks and views and drive engagement, it's a genius idea. So kudos to them for plotting it. But I don't think they expected the footage from the other side to come out. I don't even think they thought they were doing anything wrong. I just think what happened was they got called out. And they're like, oh, crap, this really looks bad.
Yeah.
It does look like we set this up.
And I think they did. That's my personal opinion.
Oh, yeah. They did. They did.
No, but yeah.
Yeah, Clay, they did set it up. I mean, it's very unprofessional. Mississippi Free Press, the Jackson Free Press. I think they're more than just liberal media. I think that they are Marxist, and they're pushing this Marxist idea. That's why they were at this protest. And then they made themselves part of the story. That's what journalists didn't used to do, and that's the most disgusting thing about it is the free press is supposed to, not talking about these guys, I'm talking about the general, the American free press is supposed to be one of the guardians of the truth, so that the government and the powerful don't get to shape their narrative without the truth coming out. And these people are on the side of that side that wants to shape their narrative. And it's disgusting. Well, we got a live audience over here. Let's see if we got a question. Usually my audience has at least 2 questions every show, man. Shell is our host over there. Shell, do you have a question yet?
I don't, but Mark just popped up. Margo, do you have something on your mind?
I guess my biggest concern is they've worked to use it to their advantage, but where's the punishment? Where's the punishment for literally standing up and saying it's okay to hate one religion over another? Where's the punishment other than being the free press? What kind of laws are we putting in place to make this not be the standard on a university campus? And especially in Mississippi, I just really wonder what are the legal people looking at?
Well,
I haven't seen anything yet, but Clay, you are pretty close.
Well, I think you retweeted my post this morning. I shared something on Twitter that I think could be very, very useful, and something they did over in Alabama. Let me find this post here. Here it is. This is in Alabama, but I tagged the governor. Not that the governor cares what I think. I'm not the biggest fan of him either. But this is what they're doing over in Alabama. It says, after student protests at U of A, Alabama senators support new legislation. After a pro-Palestine protest at the University of Alabama, Alabama senators co-sponsored a bill restricting student debt forgiveness for protesters. Well, I think, the left loves to hit us in the pocketbook. They love to call our sponsors. They love to call our employers. They love to financially cancel us, to cripple us, to shut us up by messing with our money. I think at the end of the day, you got to do the same thing to them. You got to fight fire with fire. I didn't set the rules, but I've been forced to go by them. So I think you fight cancel culture with cancel culture. Let's start identifying these anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas, baby-killing terrorists, find out all their connections, and let's start making them feel the pain a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that tweet. That's right. That is a good idea. I retweeted over yours and tagged the governor too, and some other folks like Dan Eubanks in the state legislature, because that's a great idea. And good ideas that have come from other states ought to be practiced here, for God's sake. It's time to make these folks pay, and if anybody follows Colonel Kurt Schlichter and I both, we talk about the new rules that Clay just mentioned all the time, Clay. We didn't want them. But now we're going to use them. We're going to use them, and we're going to pummel you with them. And that's why I'm doing this show, because I want the Mississippi Free Press to be known as a Marxist, leftist, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorism outlet that doesn't tell the whole truth. They massage it, they twist it, and everything, and they want to be the lynch mob of this, like this poor kid that I think he's been kicked out of his fraternity now. Well, man, we got to take another break. When we come back, there's a little video clip I saw you retweet yesterday about Mike Ezell, my congressman down here in the 4th District. And it's about the media lynch mob, too, because they're going after him. We'll be right back with Clay Edwards from The Clay Edwards Show.
We've learned through the pandemic we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
Darktalk.com, darktalk.com. Now you hit that website, that's exclusive to Patriot.tv, so you're able to also help your family and support our network to keep us going as well. Let's go to not only satellite phones, but then you just have regular phones as well, regular mobile phones as well. So you can click satellite phones, or you go back to the top, click secure phones. So this gives you various cell phones.
We are protecting your privacy in ways that no one else does. We've talked about how your cell phone is a government tracking device, how it archives where you've been, what you're up to, who you're talking with, what you're searching on the web, and that information is not private. It is available to the cell phone companies and often sold or used to get people in court, right? These phones, and I'm not trying to say these are for criminals, these are for people who want the privacy that they are afforded by the Constitution, right? Because we don't think that it's our job to track you. It is our job to provide you with communications so you can go about your daily life.
Shut up. Knock it off. Get away from me.
Do you think Israel should accept the peace proposal? Will you now say no more weapons? You don't think Israel should accept the peace proposal? You want this genocide to continue?
You want the killing of my people, my Palestinian people?
Shut up. Knock it off.
You are disgusting, racist. How shameful of you that you even work in this administration and you put your hands on a person. Shame on you. Shame on you. You are the violent one, not the people that are protesting peacefully. You are the violent one.
So we are in Congress just like we are every day, and today we've been asking the members of Congress what do they think about Israel not signing the peace agreement that Hamas just signed. And we were in the halls, and there was this congressman, what's his name? Ezel. He's from Mississippi, and I know he's a former police officer. And can you say, Summer, what happened?
He turned around, told me to shut my mouth, and then took his hand and slapped my hand and knocked my phone to the ground.
So have you filed a complaint?
I did file a complaint with Capitol Police, which they called in some criminal investigation.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. Here it's Truth Thursday at Patriot.tv, and we're live on Patriot.tv's network and our X Spaces simulcast. And our guest today is a talk show host from Jackson, Mississippi, Clay Edwards. I almost got your name wrong, Clay. I'm sorry about that, brother. But this one got my attention. I didn't even know about it. I'm a constituent of Congressman Clay. When I saw that you retweeted the video and said, Mike Ezell for governor. Now, there's some challenges with that, quite honestly. Mike hadn't exactly kept his campaign promise not to vote for Kevin McCarthy. 15 times, I think, was the number. But the issue is the digital lynch mob or the high-tech lynch mob. These people, this is Code Pink that set this up. It's all planned. It's all staged. It's all orchestrated. Now, I don't think I would have taken the actions that Congressman Ezell did in that hallway. But we're all human beings, you know, and quite honestly, I cheered a little bit when I saw that because we need more Americans to stand up against this stuff. And those people were out there pushing the Hamas Nazis and trying to say the lie that Hamas had accepted a peace agreement and Israel's committing genocide. And quite frankly, those are all just propaganda lies. But Congressman Ezell did what he did. You know, I mean, it's not just in Mississippi, I guess is my point, and I wanted to get your take on it live with the audience here.
Sure, I shared that kind of in the moment there. That nut job, Ashton Pittman, that works for the Mississippi Free Press, the head of the Rainbow Supremacy, that's what I call them here, the LGBTQ crazies, is the Rainbow Supremacist. And I consider him the head of the Mississippi chapter of the Rainbow Supremacist. He shared that, so it came through my news feed, and I was like, you know, I don't like any of our congressmen here in Mississippi. They're all liars. None of them held up to what they said they were going to do, except Benny Thompson. You know, one thing I'll give Democrats is they do indeed walk it like they talk. And I commend them for that. When Democrats are in office, they go for the jugular. They go for generation. My friend Kim Wade up here, my mentor in radio, who I'll be at his campaign launch to be the next mayor of Jackson later tonight. But Kim says it all the time. He's like, you got to commend Democrats. I mean, they go for generational change when they got the reins of power. But all that aside, and my disdain for these cuck congressmen we have here in Mississippi who do nothing except what the uniparty tells them to do. Mine's Mike Guest. I like Mike personally, but I'll never vote for Mike again, and I will always go for whoever's going against him moving forward based on the TikTok ban. That's $6,000 a month of mine they're messing with right there. I don't care what you think of China. I don't trust the California communists any more than I trust China, and this is going to give them more control. But back to Ezel raising his pimp hand on old girl. I envy him. I wish I could have done that. I would love to do that. I have no problem with that. And first off, he didn't assault her. He knocked her phone out of her hand. They're blowing this out of proportion, just like they're blowing the imaginary genocide in Palestine out of proportion. It's what they do. I mean, look, I don't dislike a celebrity more than I could possibly dislike Alec Baldwin. And I even somewhat enjoyed watching that girl harass him a few weeks ago. But it was still just that part of me that can't stand these people. Still felt bad for him, just a little bit. Even with all the stuff he said about our great president, Donald J. Trump, I still felt a little bad for him. Of course, I remember that he's equally as much of a scumbag, but it's just if they run around, they pursue people, and they chase people, and they think making somebody bend the knee, because that's what this is, just like bend the knee in 2020 and saying Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. To who? They don't matter to y'all. Anyway, so the Free Palestine is the new Black Lives Matter. And they're just running around, they're harassing people, they're violating people's personal space, demanding people say, just bend the knee. What do any of us have to do with Palestine? How is anybody here in America saying Free Palestine going to stop Israel from dropping bombs on Palestine? Palestine, I hate to keep going back to my shirt here, but Palestine effed around, and when you F around, you don't get to determine the level of find out.
You're absolutely right, man. And speaking of your shirt, I got to get one because it was that logo, and I'm like, man, I got to get this guy on my show because they exactly did that. So ClayEdwardsShow.com, I think, is the website. At least that's an entry point to buy one of those T-shirts, right, Clay? Yeah. We do have a question from the audience, and we'll go over there in a second. Go ahead.
I was just saying either there or by FAF.
Okay, yeah. All right, man. Shell, go ahead with the question. I see a hand up over there.
All right, Sofa King, you're up.
Thank you, Shell. Thank you, Colonel. I just want to know if you guys have any insight into the commonality between the media coverage and the strategy that they're using in Gaza, covering Gaza, why it's so similar to the strategies that they're using on the college campuses.
I mean, my opinion is just simple. They have an agenda to push. I guess that's just the best answer. I think the media, when I say the Democrats, I'm referring to the media, the whole industrial complex that they've created. They've got some problems on their hands because you got one side that truly is all about this oppressed and oppressor mindset, that anybody black and brown is being oppressed and everybody else is the oppressor. But they've so hitched their wagon to Israel over the years that it's just created quite the conflict. I know that's not exactly what you asked, but it's the best answer I've got. I don't know. It's quite the pretzel they've bent themselves into. It's interesting to see them get themselves out of it.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting. I tweeted out this morning, I woke up in an America where the president of the United States, Joe Biden, is siding with the Hamas Nazis against our oldest and best ally in the Middle East, and that Hitler would adore Joe Biden for doing that. I mean, that's where we're really at. And, the difference, Clay, I think, between the BLM riots, and don't get me wrong, the same organizers and funders of the BLM riots are the same ones here. I've looked at them. There's probably some more foreign money coming in through the Iranians, but it's from the Chinese and maybe even the Russians, since we've done so well at making a total enemy out of Russia again over the Ukraine nonsense. But their difference is I saw a pamphlet this morning from one of the campuses that said, "Free Palestine means death to America." And you picked up a little bit of that in the Black Lives Matter and the Antifa riots and those kind of things during 2020, but it wasn't in your face like this. Just your thoughts on that, because it seems like they've really crossed that river, that Rubicon River, as a lot of people like to say these days. But that's a big step to actually put that in their literature that's inevitably going to be found, like this was, on a college campus.
Yeah, Colonel, I live up here in Jackson. Well, I live right. I moved outside of Jackson and Brandon. Now I'm 15 minutes down the road. This wasn't much of a stretch based on the interactions I've had with the overwhelming majority of Jacksonians and my interactions with people online. I take my content to places where I know people disagree with it. Look, I love having a supportive audience, but I love having a combative one even more, because it gives you an opportunity to actually create change. So the comments and the things I've seen over the last few years, I felt like we were heading this way for a while. I didn't know what the linchpin would be to get us to death to America. I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't know if it was going to be a race thing or what exactly was going to happen, if they were going to try to create a George Floyd 2.0, a Birmingham church, or was it Birmingham or Montgomery, a Birmingham church bombing type situation again to try to create more racial tension. I didn't know what the linchpin was going to be. I wouldn't have guessed. I really wouldn't have guessed death to Israel, but it was going to be the linchpin to this thing, basically. But here we are. It's quite the thing to watch. I said it. My radio show started the week after, the Monday after Joe Biden's inauguration in January 20, 2021. So whatever the Monday after that was. And I remember sitting down there with the boss at the radio station and some advertisers, and said, well, the next 4 years are going to be very interesting, because if I know the one thing about the Democrats, they do not handle being in control well. They will be infighting one another. I didn't have Democrat civil war on my bingo card, but I thought there would be a power struggle. I thought there'd be too many promises made, not enough promises kept to pull everybody under the one umbrella that they did to beat Trump, if we're going to pretend that the election was fair and square and all that. I mean, I don't, but for the sake of diving into all that, you knew there was going to be some parties that were unhappy, and we're seeing that unfold now. The Palestine crew, whatever you want to call them, the progressive left, they're ready to split with the Democrat industrial complex, it appears.
Yeah, and the race for president is just as close as it was in 2020, or they wouldn't be going all out opposing Israel and siding openly with Hamas if the Dearborn, Michigan and the Minnesota Somali Muslim crowd weren't important. I mean, those numbers in the big picture are not that important, but this move to stop sending shipments of weapons to the Israelis, even though Congress has approved it, something Donald Trump was impeached for even mentioning or implying against Ukraine, is really a storyteller, and it lays that groundwork that there, in fact, I think you called it right, Clay. It's a civil war within the Democrat Party. I say we let them keep going and don't interrupt them. And maybe, even though the election, I'm with you on that, there's going to be shenanigans. There's been shenanigans in every American election, folks. It's just they can do it bigger and louder and more prominently now. Well, we got to take our last break, man. When we come back, I want to talk about the double standard some more. It actually shows some video from Clarence Thomas talking about the high-tech lynch mob. And then a little campaign sticker that was done within a year of him saying these words that we'll see on the backside of this break. I'm Rob Maness at Patriot.tv. We're live on X Spaces simulcast and the network with Clay Edwards from Jackson, Mississippi. We'll be right back.
About 30 years ago, I had the opportunity to go into the Amazon rainforest and study their medicinal treasures, and the one that really captured my imagination was cat's claw. After all the discussions and interviews with the locals, I went back to the lab and I found that it was the most potent inhibitor of a switch called NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is normally dormant, and then with oxidative stress, it migrates to the nucleus and it regulates thousands of genes involved in inflammation, turning some on, turning some off. And if you suppress NF-kappa B, keep it inactive, which is what cat's claw does, then you're able to temper down all of that stress on the body. So cat's claw, I've been using it ever since. So the scientist actually takes his own medicine.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Brilliant military career, serving 33 years. Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
From my standpoint, as a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
Here with our X Spaces simulcast audience and my guest, Clay Edwards, host of the Clay Edwards Show in Jackson, Mississippi. And that clip there of Justice Thomas really sets the stage for what I want to show here with Pick 2. And Clay, you mentioned the double standard and the white Democrats being the problem still today. Well, this picture, this campaign paraphernalia was within 1 year of Clarence Thomas saying that. He was absolutely right. And the difference today is, my friend, is that the white Democrats continue to do this and support this kind of activity, this lynching, this digital lynching or high-tech lynching, and they've got their black American followers do it too. That's the difference, is the script has been flipped. It doesn't matter whether you're white, black, yellow, red, or purple. If you're on the wrong side of the Democrat Marxist ideology, they're going to do the high-tech lynching to you.
Colonel, I had a video on TikTok go viral over the last couple of weeks, and it was just simply asking a question. I'm 46. I'm right at the tail end of being a Gen Xer. And I just asked the question. I said, why is black Gen X so angry? I said, we grew up in a really good time, shoulder to shoulder. I never remember having conversations about race or racism really through the 80s, the 90s, into the early 2000s. Frankly, I think we all know that until old Barry became president and everything became about race, we had really good race relations in America. I was always the minority in my friend group. My nightclubs were predominantly black nightclubs. It was never a thing. I've always been a conservative. I was raised a conservative. But we never politics was not pop culture. We had not replaced God with politics by this point. And I never remember seeing all that come up. And I'm going to tie these together. You mentioned the white Democrats and the Democrat power structure getting the black voters, the black middle class, whatever you want to call them, to go along with all these shenanigans. And look, I've been very outspoken about this. I've lost a ton of respect for a lot of my black friends and for the black culture altogether for being duped into doing the white liberals' evil bidding, while it's the white liberal that is the racist. It's quite frankly amazing to see happen. The same white liberals that created the Ku Klux Klan, the same white liberals that digitally lynched, the high-tech lynched Clarence Thomas, frankly, continue to this very day. The same white liberals do all this stuff and take advantage of black people and use them and pretend that black people can't so much as tie their own shoes without their help. The blacks are out here caping for and will fight you over. It's aggressive ignorance. And I've never seen nothing like it. Again, I'll reference my friend Kim Wade. He's a black conservative radio host in Jackson. He obviously talks about this a lot more freer than I can. And man, you listen to him for about 5 minutes, and if you can make an argument against any of the points he makes on this very topic, you're lying. So yeah, it's a topic that's I'm quite passionate about, and I've fallen on a lot of swords and lost a lot of friends trying to discuss. I had a black radio host here in town, a hip hop radio host who I grew up with, was friends with for a long time. We were talking about race relations late 2019, early 2020, maybe around the George Floyd time. I can't remember exactly. And he said, Clay, a lot of tough conversations need to be had. And what he meant was a lot of white people need to admit they're racist. And I never agreed with that. I said, you're right. A lot of tough conversations need to be had. And I think I'm going to be the one to start having them. And that's what I've chosen to do, and continue to speak out against it. And I guess I've become a racism myth buster of sort. Every time they came, but I'm like, let's peel the onion back a little further here and see if it really is racism. And typically it's not.
Yeah, exactly right, man. Well, I'm glad to hear that Mr. Wade's going to run for mayor. I'm excited about it. I've heard him a few times on the radio, man. We need more people of all demographics, especially Black Americans, to step up and speak out and run against this, run for office, step into that political arena. So I'm excited about that. Well, I got one more hand up in the audience, Clay. I'd like to take the question before we close out the show, man. Shell, it looks like AC's got her hand up.
Sure. Okay, so we just figured something out, and I'm wondering if you two have any information on this. So we've been with a security company for over 15 years, and we've been on their maintenance plan, and all of a sudden we noticed that was taken off of our contract, and then all of a sudden our systems started to mess up. So we give them a call, and they want us digitally because they've actually merged with Google. And I'm wondering, is there a plan, or have you heard anything about, since we're dealing with digital terrorism and we're dealing with being bullied in all types of ways, they're forcing individuals, and we called around and asked other people who we know on the system to go completely digital. And they can't confirm that if the power goes out, that our system will last more than 3 or 4 hours. And we want to keep our physical system where if the loud speaker goes off. What says you guys? Is there something I need to worry about? And do I need to seek a different security company or put in one myself?
It sounds like Google is jealous of Amazon's ability to listen in on everybody's conversations. And they want you to switch over to some digital so they have full control, and they can hear your conversations. And if you say anything that goes against the Chinese communist credit score that they've tried to implement here in America, it's not even like using the N-word anymore. It's men can be women, men can't be women. Oh, you're canceled. Oh, we're cutting your house off. You can't change the temperature on your thermostat. We're locking your doors. You're being canceled. So yeah, nothing surprises me at all. I would keep everything as beta as possible, as physical, as tangible as possible. I enjoy digital stuff, but clearly as a luxury, not as a necessity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds like you may have some issues with Google. You got to be careful and go into the settings on all these devices. There's a function called the sidewalk function. I think it's on the Google Nest system that allows people to tap into your Wi-Fi at will if you want them to be able to do that. So, and it comes with the switches set to on. When you look at those devices. So any of these devices, whether it's Amazon's Alexa, Google's system or whatever, and your security system, man, if they're an ESG company, environmental, blah, 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 making bad decisions for their stockholders based on that crap, then there's no telling what kind of shenanigans you got some folks that are behind the scenes in the back end of that system willing to do to push their cause, man. Well, Clay, I wanted to thank you again for coming on the show today. We're almost out of time. And have you go ahead and give a shout out to your website and the podcast, the T-shirt. Get the T-shirt, folks. We all ought to be wearing these T-shirts. FAPO, to hell with these Marxists and these crazies. It's time for Americans to push back. And that's why I wanted to get Clay on the show, folks. And I appreciate the audience participation. But any final words, sir, and tell folks where to find you and how to get that shirt.
First, thank you for your service as retired military. We do appreciate it, knowing that there was at some point some sane people running and defending country. So thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity. I never thought I would, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd see myself in a conversation with somebody of your stature. So so for that opportunity. Guys, I'm on the radio every morning. You can stream it worldwide, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, WYAB.com, or go to go to ClayEdwardsShow.com. There's links there to stream live, buy these shirts, hats. I throw a matching sticker in with every order. It's how you support the cause. If you want people to be able to say these things and not have to worry about being canceled, you want people to be able to speak the unadulterated truth with complete disregard of who they offend. Support the type outlets like what the Colonel's doing here, what I'm trying to do up here. We need your support. And you guys that are listening to this, watching this right now, I think that's great. But don't be afraid to start using your voice. You may have to thread the needle a little bit here and there until you become more known for it. I've learned, I had a guy tell me not too long ago, he said, man, I say one thing to make them mad. By the time they're piping hot about that, I've said 10 more things. And I'm like, you know what, that's right, man. I'm not going to give them time to simmer on one thing. I'm like a boxer. Just keep hitting them with another body blow, another body blow, another body blow. Next thing you know, they don't know what hit them. Keep pushing. Thank you for the support. Podcast is available every day by 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Search Clay Edwards Show wherever you download podcasts, stream music. It eventually finds its way onto YouTube. It pushes itself over there. I try to update Rumble daily, but it just depends on when the video link is provided. So anyway, the podcast is the best way to go. I do tons of TikToks and Instagram videos. All the reels, that short form content, you can find me at SaveJXN, at SaveJXN on every platform. That's my handle on every social. Thank you all.
Well, thanks, my friend. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in person someday. I get around the state a little bit now, talking to conservatives. So I look forward to it. Thank you for fighting for America. Thank you for supporting these kids. Thank you for supporting anybody willing to stand up to these Marxism. And that's it, folks, for the Truth Thursday with Clay Edwards. Go check him out. Get that T-shirt. I got to get one. Need some hats, too, man, my friend. But Monday is More War Monday. We've got another congressional candidate, this one from Virginia 7. His name is Cameron Hamilton. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's fighting the DOD to reinstate the COVID vaccine folks that were kicked out for refusing the vaccine and to help those that have been harmed with adverse effects about it. Because you know what? Our government. So I'll see you Monday on the Rob Maness Show at Patriot.tv.